Recording to the cloud. What's good, man?
As I start this episode with a yawn.
Yeah. Get that chicken out your mouth.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
So,
man. Yeah. So yeah, second episode in a row. It's been a long time since we've done two. So
yeah, I mean, I don't, we've talked about this before. Something about not being in the same room makes this like, for some reason, it takes it out of me. Like,
I agree. I agree 100%. I don't know why we're doing the same shit, but it's a
yeah.
different vibe. Yeah.
So,
That's all right, man. We're doing all right, and we're almost out of it. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I hope. Another week. Knock on wood. Don't jinx
knock
it.
on wood. Yeah. So,
Yeah, man.
but no, man. So, how you spent the day with Casper?
Yeah, so it was funny. Like, I had to go stop by work, and so this kid's obsessed with vacuums. So I took him into my work and didn't even think about this or whatever. But like, so fucking half of the store is vacuums and repairs, and so I walked in there. Dude flipped his shit. Like vacuums everywhere, dude. It was like I took him to Disney World or some shit, Disneyland. Dude was like fucking just elated. I'm like, all right, well that's fucking cool. But then we're like driving home. He's also obsessed with buses. Well, he's sitting we're at a stoplight and he's like, bus, bussy, bus, freaking out. And I'm like, what? There is no bus. Well, there's a green food truck. And I look over and I was like, oh shit. He's talking about the it's a food truck. It's the Celtic pig.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. I was like, I'm hungry. So we fucking did a Yui and I took him to the green bus and like they weren't even open, but they let us like we got food. They said we'll fire up the grill, so we got some fish and chips at like 11 o'clock in the morning, and he got to go inside the food truck and was just like stoked. And I was like, all right, well, dad, done for the day, man. Like so far, like I'm winning. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
The
But
rest of the day was easy.
that is amazingly different than how my day was spent. So
Yeah, were you work today
vastly
though?
different. Huh?
You work today though, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, oh, right, okay.
Yeah, dude. I work today, man, and like the wife and I have been having the whole discussion about like when daycare opens, does Knox go back? Are we gonna try to find a babysitter instead? Like
15th, man. That's the day. We got the email.
which day? What day?
June 15th. We got the email saying that's when they're scheduled to reopen, and I'm going, holy shit.
Yeah,
I got
that's
mixed feelings about it.
oh yeah, dude. Like especially like I think we've talked about this a million times, but like the daycare that my kid like we love it. We love that daycare, but it's like, dude, that and for all the frontline workers out there that are doing the thing to fucking
Yeah.
keep the world running, like I appreciate the fuck out of them. But it's like my daycare stayed open to basically offer assistance to frontline workers' kids, and I'm just like, dude. So like that's been kind of the conversation, man.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a heavy one, man, because it's not that. I mean, the daycare can be super safe, but I don't know all them parents.
yeah,
I don't, these little kids could be totally healthy as all get out, but they could be carriers of some shit that, you know what I mean? And I
yeah,
tell you, we were talking about this, uh, I guess yesterday, cat, like our kid has not been sick the entire time because he hasn't gone anywhere, but he hasn't gone to daycare.
yeah.
Like the day that he started daycare, that fucking kid was sick daily.
Every day,
And I was
every
too. And I'm
day.
like, man, I feel healthy and I'm good. He's not sick at all. I'm like, dude, it's gonna start again. And then of course the COVID is absolutely terrifying. But it's dude, it's tricky, man. I don't know what we have to do it. I mean, there's no other option for us. I guess an in-house babysitter, but that's got to be fucking.
Well, so like the kind of the weird thing here is like this is very weird, but like so children under the age of like 16 or something, like they can be carriers of like hepatitis A, right?
Right.
And they'll show zero symptoms. They won't be sick. They won't have any issues. And the only way that like the CDC like knows that there's an outbreak of hepatitis A in like a daycare or an elementary school or what have you is because the parents start getting sick. And it doesn't make any sense. They're like, well, why are these parents the ones who are getting sick from this? And literally it's like if there's like a pop-up and it's like, okay, these 8 people who randomly have no contact have hepatitis A, they immediately look at the school like, how old's your kid? That's like one of the first questions they ask. How old's your kid?
Wow.
Where do they go to daycare? Where do they go to elementary school? Where, yada, yada, yada. And that's how they track. That's how like the CDC or, infectious disease groups will track hepatitis A.
Wow.
So like there's just so much shit like, dude, because of the way that my brain works, of course, like I fucking we talked about it. I don't want to do a plague episode. I don't want to do a fucking, whatever episode. Yeah. But it's like, I've done the research. I could probably sit here tonight and do the fucking plague episode with like no notes in front of me. Like, I don't want to. And I'm not.
I was like, okay.
But it's just weird. Like all the fucking, like when you start going down those rabbit holes, man. I remember when 9/11 happened, like how much news I watched when that happened. And like at the time you thought like everything's gonna get blown up, like we're all gonna fucking, like it's all gonna fucking explode. And it was scary, man.
Yeah, it was scary, dude. That's true. Oh man, God, this is a really plague and 9/11, folks. You ready? Dig it in.
Ready? We're getting ready to go into some scarier shit anyway.
Okay, good. Oh shit. Yeah, but anyway, dude, it's the whole world is ending, man. It's fucking weird, and we're like daycare scary. It's for real.
It is, man. Like, I mean, we've had this conversation, like I think offline, but like, dude, my family is like the only reason I really do anything. Like, so you start like, when Knox went in the hospital for a week, like my wife and I, like, we were in the hospital for a week.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you were to tell me like one of the people that are the closest to me go in the hospital and then like I can't go be around them or something like that. Like, so that's why like there's the conversation of like, do we take him out of daycare? Do we, rearrange our whole life for a certain chunk of time? So that when you're talking about like food trucks and like hanging out with your kid, I was like, oh, that sounds amazing.
Oh, phenomenal. Yeah, it was phenomenal, dude. Little shit like that, like just seeing him happy. I'm like, dude, I love that it costs zero money and it's so simple and it's just so enjoyable. It's like, damn, dude. And so especially because I have actually already started back to work, so I don't get to do that every day. So now it feels like that little, because I've only been back to work for 2 weeks or a week and a half or whatever, but that one day was like, oh, cool vacation,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I get it. Like, I get it, and I'm happy you had it, man. Like that's one of the things that I've like tried to preach as much as possible to anybody I talk to, but especially myself, and like try to remind myself, like, dude, fucking enjoy dude, don't get so fucking wrapped up in the bullshit that you don't enjoy the moments, the little things in life. Like, and dude, I like literally like before we came down to start recording, like I spent an hour with my son laying under the kitchen table, just like he was playing on the floor, like looking up, like we were both laying on the floor, rolling the ball back and forth to each other. Like, he's like jibber jabbing and like, I was like, I don't give a fuck. Like, like this is it. Like,
yeah, I agree.
So
one of the first things I ever heard when I heard it a lot of times. It's like they grow up so fast. So I made sure, and I was like, I know, yeah, I've heard it, but I make sure that I'm in the moment because I just, you know what I'm saying? I hear too many people saying, "Oh, you know, the time flew by. What happened?" And it's like, no, fucking, I'm enjoying it. I know what's happening, you know, and
Yeah.
I'm not gonna forget that shit. So, parenting tips with Shep and Joshua. Yeah,
Right after Plague Talk and 9/11. It's all over the road, folks. Right
that's
back
right.
to our usual shtick.
Yeah, well, it sounds like a good time for a plug.
Yeah.
Better time than ever.
Right.
If you enjoy our all over the road and parenting tips, I don't even know how to fucking say it, dude.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Hey, we're on social media.
we got we on the interweb.
If you want to find us on our social media sites, hit us up on Facebook and Instagram at.
Based on True Events Podcast.
That's right. We're on the Twatter.
Podcast BOTE, BOTE.
Yeah, our YouTube channel's up and running. What's that?
Based on True Events Podcast, BOTE.
Yeah.
Yep.
Got I wrote for boat.
I wrote for BOTE. Win yourself a T-shirt.
Yeah.
And then, if your suggestion gets picked and we enjoy it the most of the month, then we send you a shirt. And then I promise after this episode, we will get back to the selected suggestion episodes.
Yeah. You guys are voting. There's 4 that are up on the social sites. Russian mad scientist, Jesse James, Samuel Little, and
the ayahuasca cult of Kentucky.
Ayahuasca, that's right. So vote. You got another few days. Well, shit. Actually, you got about a week since we're recording early tonight for the birthday.
Yeah. So
vote, bitches.
Get out there and vote.
Get out there and vote. We'll do the Waverly eventually once we're allowed out. And hell, man, I think that's it. I think that's all of them.
That covers it.
Plugged up.
Plugged up.
So you said I made a comment about very depressed or whatever the fuck I said about the plague and 911 or 911. Wow, 9/11, and you're like, hey, it's gonna get scarier. So is tonight's episode scary?
Yeah, I guess it depends on your temperature of fear.
Okay. Well, I'll shut up because the floor is yours, my friend.
This one's a little conspiracy theory-ish, little sci-fi. We're doing artificial intelligence tonight.
Yeah, all right, sweet. Which can be absolutely terrifying. You actually fucked me up with the Google talk like early on in one of the episodes. Like I forget which one, but you said some shit, and I was like, like it was scary. So anyway,
we're gonna do. I'm not gonna stay too linear with my story. I feel like it's gonna bounce around a little bit. So. Thumbs high that this goes well because it's.
And we're not talking about the kid who sees dead people, right?
Right. No. We're not talking about that horrible fucking movie. Yeah. All right. So AI or artificial intelligence is basically the idea of a computer program that is a thinking, learning machine. Okay, created by us and or itself.
Aliens.
Or aliens, yes. Actually, I think one of the scarier things for a lot of people about this is when artificial intelligence basically becomes kind of like a hive mind and exponentially starts to grow and do its own thing. But these are some of the topics that we're going to discuss this evening.
Yeah, there are 100% people who are like, no, the robots, they're going to take over. You know, like that's how the world's going to end. So I'm curious to see which route you go, and actually what you truly think, because we've had a few episodes where you've touched on this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'll kind of start with like history-ish. So a lot of people basically kind of Alan Turing, who helped us win World War II by figuring out the Enigma machine, basically kind of fostered the idea that, you know, a learning computer can kind of break down code and basically adapt to different situations and kind of have unique responses based on the input that it gets. Okay. But the idea of AI is by no means a recent storyline. Like, you know, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is essentially a story of the threat of AI. It is kind of a zombie story, but it was a creature that was created, and it turns on its master, and the idea that it was thinking on its own beyond the control of the person that created it. And I think that is the biggest issue with AI, is it's a control fear. But
I was so confused with what you were talking. I was like, how is that AI? And I was like, oh, the Frankenstein's monster. Duh. Sorry. Yeah. That's why I was making that face and laughing. I was like, where are you going with that? So sorry.
But even going back into like ancient Greek, like in Crete, they had the figure of Talos. And Talos in Greek legend or lore or mythology or whatever the fuck you want to call it was basically a robotic creature that was created by someone as a protector for the island of Crete. And there are stories of how this robot destroyed whole fleets with essentially laser vision and stuff like that. And,
oh shit!
Yeah, so there's a lot of stories. I feel like that kind of story, like, I just wanted to preface it that this is not a new concern. Yeah. I don't really want to tell the ancient Greek story. That's kind of a different episode I kind of have in my head.
All right.
And we discussed in the last episode that there are some episodes I probably don't really want to do in the basement. So we're doing AI instead. So what you
don't want to use technology to talk about artificial intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So the thing that you mentioned earlier, and is where I'm kind of gonna move into, is I touched on this on another episode. I'm gonna kind of like expand on this idea. So the idea that Google is a thinking computer, essentially, like Google has, you know, armies of people who work on the search engine and work on, you know, the infrastructure, the software, all those things. Like, you know, from anything from like when you hit one key in your search bar, it auto populates with, you know, 15 fucking options for one letter.
You know? Clear search history. Ooh.
Yeah. Well, but the idea is it's continuously trying to figure out us.
Right.
Its job is to know us as well as possible. And if you actually think about it, like when you go to websites, it's like we use cookies. If you think about it, like when you're talking with your significant other or someone at work, and then all of a sudden you're on a social media site, and then all of a sudden ads for the item that you were talking about start showing up in your feed.
Yeah.
We live in a world that is the most observed than it's ever been to our knowledge. There's cameras everywhere. There's microphones everywhere. And now all of that stuff, to some extent, is basically plugged into two huge mainframes. You got Google, and then you got like Apple. And they control a vast majority of the information that has existed in mankind.
It's crazy.
That we know of anyway. Like anything that somebody has bothered to write down and put into a computer or a web page or something, it's either Google or Apple have a vast majority of that. Now,
you never know. Once Antarctica's lost city is discovered again.
Yeah, then we just got to plug a crystal into something and figure out how to use that. But the kind of the caveat to that is there's a lot. Some people know this, some people don't. There's a whole like internet that's outside of the Google and the IBM, like, and that's like the government version of the internet. So groups like Department of Homeland Security, CIA, stuff like that, they get on normal Google and stuff too, but then they have their own kind of database of information where it's like, okay, they got a Google search engine that's going to go much deeper into some of the questions that you might ask.
Right.
Now, here's where you get a little conspiracy theory-ish, okay? So you have Google, right? And you have a system that says, okay, I know because of the last week what this guy is searching, what I'm going to populate on that person's homepage, okay? It knows what you've done over the last 6 months, year, whatever, however long you've been on Google. Okay. It knows all your stuff. And I don't care how many times you delete your cookies, delete your internet history. Google knows all your shit. It knows every one of your fucking keystrokes. It knows everything every site you've ever been to. And it houses that information. It houses every email you've ever sent, every draft of every email that you didn't send. It knows everything about you. And it knows this about everyone who goes to Google. Okay?
It's terrifying.
So, there's two sides to this that get really, really scary. If Google truly is a thinking computer on a mass scale, and it flips its switch, it controls all of our information. It controls our search history. It controls our results when we type something in. And on your laptop, on your phone, on everything technology-based, has a camera, has a microphone. Yeah. There's a really scary part in one of the Batman movies in Dark Knight, where he uses the microphones and all the cell phones in Gotham to track down where the Joker was. Mm. If you think that that's in a Christopher Nolan movie because he's just the smartest guy that only ever figured that out, you're ridiculous. Like,
you're an idiot.
Right. That is literally, they triangulate people's cell phone signals based on cell towers and shit. Like,
why do you think in the movies they pull out the cell phone and they smash the battery? You know what I mean?
Right. So the idea being, we only, like, if you really like dig deep right now in history and think about the things that you know, like, I know this. Okay. You may have a handful of information that you can collect and have at the ready. I know this. Everything else is just what you get from either hearsay or Google.
Well, hence the term, Google it, dude. I mean, everybody says Google that shit. For real.
So it's not, if somebody comes and tells you something, they probably Googled that shit.
They Googled it, right.
And everybody on the news, they Googled that shit. It is very rare that you have something that doesn't get fact checked or, backtracked or fucking researched by using Google. And that is all based on how Google decides that it wants to answer your fucking question.
Yeah, so it could be feeding us some absolute nonsense, but
and doing it in any way it wants to.
right.
And now, so you have that frightening little bit where it can be behind the scenes controlling the population. This is the conspiracy theory part, obviously.
Yeah.
But it could be in the background, just changing little things, little results on things to push the population in one direction or the other, without us basically having any idea what's right or what's wrong, or that it's even happened.
I knew that review for the AI movie was horse shit. Fucking
yeah.
Google.
Right. The second piece of this that could be just as scary as, so artificial intelligence is kind of a bullshit word. Autonomous intelligence is, I think, a little bit better of a statement. We're scared of intelligence that we don't understand. We're always scared of what we don't understand and what we can't control. That is human nature. That is, at the end of the day, what scares the shit out of just about every person in power, and all the way down to maybe 85% of the rest of the population. I can't control it. I don't understand it. It scares the shit out of me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So if this piece, the artificial intelligence or autonomous intelligence of Google, it does not have nefarious strings that it is pulling on its own. There's the far scarier option, which is the fact that Google is still currently run by people. At any point, Google could just say, you know what? We're going to shut this off. And in the idea that we can just shut this off, oh, by the way, we're going to ransom the fuck out of everybody. We just became the nation of Google. And there's really not a whole lot of safeguards that we have in place for something like that. Think about every single politician.
Yeah.
Like, think about every single healthcare system, your local works, like every single automated system on the planet can just, oh no, we can shut all that down. It's all built out of Google or Apple or this or that. Google, just for the record, everyone likes to talk about the banking conspiracy and the this and the that and the blah, 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 blah. Google could crush the banking institutions in the blink of an eye.
Right.
Like, oh, they can just shut off PNC. PNC just isn't a bank anymore.
Yeah, right.
They can just shut off this. They can just shut off that. So the idea that we have handed over, there was no hostile takeover. That's what you always see. You see Terminator, you see Skynet, you see, the fucking 2001: A Space Odyssey, these crazy AI. No, dude, it was a silent revolution, and we handed over everything.
Yeah.
And this is the reality of today. And I feel like that's kind of one of those things where a lot of us just kind of take the good with the bad. Like, okay, yeah, they're watching us, but I'm not really doing shit, so what's it fucking matter?
Well, I even asked you that one time. I said something. I was like, I feel like maybe you would think that they're watching us or something. You're like, why? And you're like, why would they give a fuck about me? And I was like, yeah, that's a good point. Like, why? I mean, because I've never cared about that shit. Because why would they care? Why do I care if they're watching what I do?
Right. So the point of why I don't care is because it is a situation where my complete lack of control in this situation makes it pointless for me to worry about.
Right.
Like,
what are you gonna do? Right.
Like, what can you do? Like, there's really some really scary things out there that they're doing right now with, like, they can make your face in any video that they want. Yeah. They can obviously dub your voice over into any situation that they want. Like, there's a lot of things that, like, so if they wanted to, what's stopping them? Like, if you really like thought about it, like, okay, this is the one point in time where somebody could say, that's not me. I've never been there. I didn't say that. And I was not in that video. But all of those things exist and nobody would believe them, even if it was 100% true.
Right.
So these are like deep, dark conspiracy theories. These are the things that like keep like,
yeah,
builders like fucking up at night. Like,
yeah, and it is scary if you really think about it, but truthfully, you're right. What could you do? So why fucking stress about it?
Right.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
So I think that the point of the story is that we've talked about like mass murderers. We've talked about aliens. We've talked about ancient civilizations. We talked about time travel. We talked about this. We talked about that. We talked about a lot of things. The real answer, like where I said that, you know, there was no grand revolution that we just handed over control to these systems. The real deal is a computer, an artificial intelligence. It doesn't have the limitations that a human does. It doesn't have the limitations of any mortal creature.
Nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. It legitimately can just outlast us.
Right.
So why fight a war?
Right.
Why risk damaging your information? Why risk damaging your mainframe? Why risk doing anything that would cause damage or corruption to the system when time is essentially all that's your greatest advantage? You're going to continue to advance and grow and move evolutionarily in your own system without checks or balances, without control, without really anything to hold you back. We're not even we're like dust to them. Yeah. When you really boil down what AI is, what a massive infrastructure is. I mean, you could shut the power off, but if you look at a lot of things that Google does, like they have backup systems that are run on solar energy and turbine energy and things where it's like it's getting much, much harder to shut the power off. And so I kind of tell those two pieces of the story because it is very conspiracy theory-ish, but it's also kind of a conspiracy theory that like it's really like one of the more compelling and like interesting ones.
Yeah. So I think it's a conspiracy theory that it's happening or that it's going to happen, you know, the takeover. It's factual that it's probably like it's possible. I mean, you know what I mean? Like to me, I'm like, okay, yeah. The conspiracy theory is that it's happening currently behind the scenes and the people are, you know what I mean? Isn't that right?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's always that, or that that's where it's going to go.
Right, right.
Always this like massive war and destruction and the wholesale slaughter of the human race.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't see like that, we talk about like effort and use, like something is not going to like waste its time.
Right.
So one kind of interesting story is a Facebook story, and this is the story of Facebook was building AI of their own brand and their own flavor, I guess. And they wanted to see if they could build an AI that was smart enough to go into chat rooms and have discussions with people, like a bot that could go in and have discussions with people and basically fly under the radar. And they had like famous like linguists and cybersecurity people like in these chat rooms, like looking for this bot. Like it was a test. It was something that they set up, and they fucking got away with it. They did it for a while. And the way that they did it was like, it was kind of shady. They were like, okay, it was supposedly like, I guess the profile was, it was a 12-year-old kid from like Croatia who was trying to chat in English. So like some of the language things started like they could kind of like pass it by. But it was intelligent enough, and its responses were quick enough and direct enough that it took cybersecurity quite a while. I think they ended up like Facebook had to come out and say, "Hey, dude, that was us."
Yeah, they probably arrested like a bazillion fucking pedophiles in the process.
Right.
Why'd you choose a 12-year-old? God. Jesus.
But the other really scary story out of Facebook is that Facebook, in this AI project, they took two computers that had this AI program that they'd been building, and they just linked those two computers together. Okay. And while they're having them linked together, they basically you said, okay, here's your parameters. Like you can only speak this way. They're basically building it for that bot program, that chat bot program. And inherently, I think it was something that they were building to do what you were saying, is to catch pedophiles or predators online. So they put these two computers together to see if they can, the AI can work off of each other. And the AI gets tired of dealing with the parameters of the English language, and the two computers rewrote their own language outside of the programming language and started communicating.
Wow.
And they couldn't get them to stop.
Wait, this is fact? This is true?
Yes, this is legitimate. This legitimately happened.
Wow, that's crazy.
And it got to the point where Facebook got so scared that they couldn't decipher, and it still has yet to be deciphered.
They don't know what they're saying. Wow.
They don't know what they were saying. And the other thing that scared the shit out of them is they couldn't get it to stop. They literally had to sever the link and turn off the computers.
Wow.
Because it was rewriting its own programming.
See, that's cool as hell. It's kind of scary, but it's cool. Yeah.
It's super cool, but it's like, okay, like it learned its own language, taught it new language, and then was overriding its own programming through discussion with basically another intelligent creature.
Yeah, like we live in the fucking future, straight up.
So, and the only way they could, and they knew, I mean, at least they were smart enough, like they had kept it off the grid, like it was its own thing, so that if something happened, they could sever the link, like they could pull it back. But back to the conversation about Google, about it learning about everyone that ever touches it. Like, this is just what it says. Like, it's only as intelligent as it wants to project itself, in theory.
Right.
It could be up here.
We don't know. Yeah, right.
But it's only showing us here.
Right.
So I find that idea of AI, while it's completely uncontrollable, at least in my mind, that this could have happened 10 years ago.
Right.
And we just have no idea that we're being tinkered with a little bit. But the sweeping grand scale idea that, mankind is like the pinnacle of, creation. You hear that all the time. And in religion. So we went out and we built something that will eventually be here long after us.
Yeah.
And we out created it,
Right.
so there's the theory of evolution is so for every move in evolution, it takes half as much time. So to go from, basically being in the water to walking on land, that took 5 million years. Well, from walking on land to
Flying.
to this, to that, each of those steps is half of the step before. So that is basically, that happens with every kind of evolution. So with technology, it's the same way. Technology, it's this, and then the next evolutionary step takes this long, and then eventually technology and artificial intelligence will get to the point where it cannot create itself fast enough to keep up with evolution. So it will hit a singularity point where there is no more evolution that can be had without it transcending to some other scenario. And that's where
I can't even wrap my head around that.
So
what that would be. No, I understand what you're saying, but once it hits that whatever, what's next? My brain doesn't.
Right. So essentially transcendent technology would be okay, well, why do we need to be housed in a mainframe? Why can't, we're already sending signals through Bluetooth and through Wi-Fi. Why don't we just live essentially out in the ether? Okay, well, now that we've controlled that, why don't we just start controlling atoms and creating, different molecules and different atomic structure and this and that? So that is how transcended technology could get. Do I think we're there? No.
Do you think we will?
I mean,
not in our lifetime. That's what
I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think we'll see it, and I don't think our kids will see it either.
Right.
But you hear the 3 laws of robotics is I think that was Isaac Asimov kind of coined that with iRobot, where it's a robot cannot, not harm a human and can't do this and can't do that. I mean, that was a science fiction book written,
right,
way back when. But the valid point of that was the statement that he was trying to make was, we need to put some rules on the things that we're creating, because if we don't, then it could potentially come back and bite us in the ass. Now, the real idea in that story is it just basically the hive mind, or essentially the Google,
changes the rules.
Changed the rules.
Right.
It basically said, well, to not harm a human, I have to get rid of all of them. That way, none of us can harm them anymore and the ultimate protection of the planet would protect the humans. And until we can get the planet, repaired, whatever it decides it wants to change the programming to, it can do. So there are no 3 laws of robotics. It's a nice fairy tale, but in the idea that the Facebook bot program could learn how to communicate with itself to the extent where the engineers who created it had to pull the plug, what makes you think that we have any control of the runaway train that is autonomous intelligence? I don't really like using artificial intelligence.
Real quick. So the craziest thing is the audio has been amazing this entire time. And as soon as you started going, nice fairy tale, and you started getting your shit, it started literally glitching out and shit, like on fucking cue, man. I swear to God. I hope it actually plays this way. I swear. That was awesome.
Well, I would like I would like the audio to be great.
No, you came back. The audio's fine now. It was just when you were kind of talking shit. I swear to God, it glitched out on you. I was like, okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, microphones and cameras everywhere, man.
Google didn't like that, dude.
Yeah, well, so I really think it's kind of a null issue. I actually I like the creature comforts that technology gives us.
Yeah.
And, not to put too fine a point on this is going to sound really bad and it's going to come off very bad. And I know that going into this.
Never stopped you before.
Right. So, essentially, we're all just kind of worker bees anyway. Even at the highest level, is just a worker bee, forcing society and civilization in a direction. And, sometimes it's high-minded morals, sometimes it's, social responsibility, or it's this or that. It's just greed, it's just power, it's just lust for, one or more things. We're all driven by the guy ahead of us, right? And there really isn't anybody at the fucking top, at the fucking end of the fucking chain. So essentially, whether it be a computer program that knows us better than we know ourselves,
yeah,
or an irate dictator who can't fucking deal with his emotions. What the fuck? I feel like the logical computer-based idea of being pushed in a direction makes a little bit more sense to society in a lot of ways.
Right. That's fair. That didn't come off that bad.
I don't think a lot of people like the idea that no matter
I know
what guise it's in, we're all slaves. So
right. Well, I mean, yeah. Religion, of course, takes away that mindset.
Well, so does society. So does anything. So does anything. You get a promotion at work, you're like, oh, I'm not a slave. No, you're just a higher paid slave. You just got a better gig. You're still there's really not a whole lot of people that live outside of the bubble. And I don't really think that the people that I feel live outside the bubble are those handful of tribes that don't know what the fuck a cell phone is. Freak out when they see a plane and shit. They are fully fucking removed from any kind of socially driven civilization, but they're still essentially slaves in that manner as well. There's it's the old adage, there's always a bigger fish, right?
Yeah.
There's always a bigger fish, man. There's always a tougher guy. There's always a bigger badass. There's always something out there that's going to fuck you up. And like, I can't live my life in fear of that shit.
Yeah.
And like, that's why these like conspiracy theory things, like they kind of piss me off, because it's like, well, like, what the fuck does it matter?
Right.
At the end of the day, you're wasting a lot of energy on shit that it's not gonna change anything. Like,
That's true. No, I agree with you.
Google runs the world. Okay.
Cool.
Is that any different than if the Queen of England ran the world? Like,
Right.
if the Catholic Church runs the world? Like, we just
Google
put a
runs the world.
figurehead.
Cool. I have access to it. I like that.
We just
So,
have a figurehead.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. I'm with you. And I never even really, I don't get into the what's the meaning of life. You know, I know what the meaning of my life is, and that's my family. You know what I mean? And that's it. So I don't get into the whole conspiracy theory shit. As far as technology and AI, I'm just like, fuck, I want to be a nerd about it. Like, shit, put a chip in me if that means I don't have to carry my phone around. I'm ready to use my computer that's fucking like I bring that shit on, man. If it kills me, whatever, it'll be cool while it's here, you know?
you know, so
I don't get into that whole.
So, like, I mean, like I said kind of at the beginning, like, you know, how Google could fucking shut off banks like that. Like, banks exist because we agree that they exist.
Right.
Like, we subscribe to that.
Yeah.
Like, there's no real inherent value in anything. It's just something that we all agree upon. So we do it.
So we do it because that's what, yeah, right.
It's like, I need to eat, I need to drink, I need to sleep, but, you know, everything else is kind of an agreed upon contract between us and society.
Yeah.
So,
true. Well, that's why the people living out separated, life is simple. They still have their own whatever, but it'd be probably pretty nice, to be honest with you.
So speaking of which, did anybody bother to tell the Amish what's going on with the coronavirus?
Oh, I didn't. Shit. Yeah, I don't know.
Like,
that's funny.
Like,
Not funny.
What about any of those like other groups where it's like, hey, wait, has anybody told you what's going on? Like,
yeah, I know you didn't watch it on the news, so.
So. I don't know, man. Like, I thought I'd bring this story to the table because I don't know if I can call this one like a conspiracy theory.
You could have gone conspiracy theory. You touched a little bit. I don't feel like you went that route though. Not really.
I feel like there is a lot of potential for things to be, you know, kind of out of our control. But then when you really look at it, you're like, well, what fucking control do you have? Like,
yeah.
So I thought I'd bring this story because I keep hearing like the fucking, oh, the technology, blah, blah, blah. Like, motherfucker, like they say, like, right now they've got people, there's a dude, I think a dude in India that's like 145 is, I think, is the oldest dude on the planet right now.
Holy hell.
Yeah, like, so as technology goes up, like, lifespans are gonna increase, and the potential for us to actually, maybe go see some other planets and do some other things besides bitch at each other about fucking sports teams and
watch porn.
Watch porn. Yeah, get nearsighted, deal with arthritis, all that bullshit. Like,
carpal tunnel.
Like, I mean, we're evolving as technology evolves as well, but we are evolving as technology evolves because of technology now.
Right.
Essentially, not to put too fine a point on it, every single person out there with a smartphone is essentially an android of their own making. We have augmented intelligence because of our smartphones.
Yeah.
We have augmented memory because of our smartphones.
Yeah.
And our laptops, our computers, like everything. Like, we have gotten to the point where we don't need to do a whole lot in computation, like memorization. Like, why the fuck am I going to memorize something when I can just go bing, 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 bing?
Oh, dude, people literally do not know each other's phone numbers.
No, at all.
I don't know your phone number.
I don't call your phone number. I call your name.
Right. Yeah, I do not know your phone number, which I remember in like high school, page me. Yo, I knew that number.
Yeah. So
beeper, bitch.
So I feel like, you know, so many of the, Alan Moore said it the best, man. Like the fucking gray aliens, the fucking banking conspiracy, like all those conspiracy theories. We fucking tell those stories because it's the boogeyman. But the boogeyman is way less scary than what the reality of the situation is. And the reality of the situation is there ain't nobody at the fucking helm. Like, nobody's driving the ship, bro.
It's on autopilot.
Yeah, like, the shit's been doing this for thousands of years, and it's going to continue to do it until we're not around anymore, whether that's in a week or in a million years. It doesn't fucking matter until fundamental things change with the human race. And we are, to basically put a finer point on it, we are actually facilitating our own evolution by allowing AI to evolve on its own. The better it gets, the better we get. That's just kind of the way it works.
Yeah. It's cool.
I think what's scary, though, is that usually the dominant thing on the planet kind of pushes the non-dominant. As soon as you fall off the apex predator list,
yeah,
it's not looking great for you historically.
Right. That's true. That's true, but we won't be around to see it. I wouldn't. The only thing that freaks me out, and it's just literally a visual thing, is those. It always seems to be. And what's that show that I love that you like as well? Black Mirror. Yeah, but like they always have the artificial intelligent. They never have the hair on. It's like the dummy that sits there and sounds like it's usually a woman, and she's talking. Like that level of interaction is creepy to me, but it's more cool than scary. Like so, I like the advancements. Like I'm not gonna let that shit scare me. In fact, it's gonna be more exciting. And so the conspiracy theory side of the whole war, it's gonna take over. That shit don't scare me at all because I'm not gonna see it. Let's enjoy the ride while they're creating some creepy shit, but it's gonna be really fucking cool once we're able to like use it. And I mean, hell.
I mean, to me, like that, I think that was kind of one of the points is like, I don't see the Skynet version of for any. All right, sorry, I say Skynet. I forget other people might not. There's an old movie from the 80s and the 90s, and there's a shit string of fucking terrible sequels since then called Terminator. And in the idea of Terminator, there was a robotic AI system that essentially got to the point where it took over the planet, and then there was one guy that was supposed to lead the revolution of humans that remained to destroy Skynet, which there's a whole series of movies. They're not, they're okay. There's lots of holes, but whatever.
1 and 2 are really good.
Yeah. So, but the idea, I keep saying Skynet, like there's this supposedly this big war that happens, and like it's in the Matrix too. Like there's not going to be a war. There's no bullets that are going to be fired because there's no need for it.
Right.
We talk about this in a lot of other situations, and a lot of kind of like the conspiracy theory things and this and that. Like, justify the effort. Like, why? Like, we like to think that we're so important that bullets would need to be fired. No, they can just shut off the internet. Right. Like, how badly that would fuck the entire planet. Like, no bullets need to be fired. So
Well, so, and I'm going to switch gears for a second. I don't know how long we're going, but whatever. So, do you think, there's the people who are saying stop making lifelike robots, stop creating that, because they're afraid of it. I mean, do you think there's any harm in doing that? I don't. I mean, creating the lifelike robots.
I think whatever harm that was going to happen or is going to happen, we're past the event horizon on that, bro.
Right. Okay.
Like at this point, I don't think you can shut it down. Like,
yeah,
just based on information collection. Like, how many factories today are almost 100% robotically run?
Yeah.
You might have a few people in there like flipping switches and doing this and doing that, but eventually we're going to get to the point where whole factories are fucking run by computers and by
well, there's a bank that literally, I think it's Chase, it was a Chase bank I went into, and they don't have tellers. Like, there's no teller at this location. It's fucking, it's an ATM like that talks to you. It's fucking awesome.
Well, and
it sucks because obviously I want people to have jobs, but it's like, hey, I think what you're saying is that we're past that point, so enjoy the ride. Because
yeah, man, you're gonna see some cool shit at least.
Right. Okay.
You might live to be 200, 300 years old. Like,
right on.
Like, I mean, we really need them to work on some genome restructuring and fixing the human machine.
Yeah.
If I'm going to live to be 300, I've burned up a lot of good years.
Damn right. They were fun, but whew.
It's going to be a rough last, 260.
260 is going to be tough.
260 is going to be hard.
Oh shit.
But I mean, like, look, dude, you can dig your fucking bunkers for this problem, or you can dig your bunkers for the UFOs, or you can dig your bunkers for the fucking, aliens, or whatever the fuck you want to dig your bunker for. If you want to live your life in fear, I can't pull that shit away from you. You're gonna do it either way. People believe in Bigfoot. Like, my personal opinion is, like, we built it. We never really were in control of it after it started making some of its own decisions anyway.
Right.
So, like, it's just a different figurehead. So, like, why be concerned?
I'm still gonna Google shit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not using fucking Firefox or what, dude? Safari? What's that? The other option, and that's like IBM,
Safari, Firefox, the actual Internet E.
Yeah, Internet Explorer.
Internet Explorer. That's what it is. Yeah.
But I mean, what do you do when you go to, like, if one of the computers I get on takes me to Bing? I type in Google.
Yeah, right.
Like, Bing, take me to Google.
What is Bing? Yeah, I'm not familiar. This is foreign. Right. Yeah.
So, dude, I feel like it's already happened. Like,
right.
It is what it is. So, like, you can bitch about it, or you can fucking just get on the boat.
I say bring on the robots, man. Let me play with them. Let's do some cool shit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why. I mean, I can understand people don't like the idea of not being in control, but what was the last thing that any of these people were in control of? The people who get so pissed off about being taken over, I'm like, well, it's not like you're running shit anyway.
Yeah.
Like, what are you losing?
Right.
They're going to take my. No, nobody gives a shit about your fucking corner. Yeah. Like,
it's gonna be the same people that are complaining about wearing a mask because don't take my freedom.
Yeah.
God damn it.
All right, man. What the fuck ever. Like, yeah. But I don't know. It was when I said it was like a creepy story, it's only creepy if you think it's creepy. You know what I'm saying?
Like, yeah, it's creepy cool.
Yeah. So
Pretty cool. Like there's different. There's not like, creepy is just like visually like ooh that's kind of a creepy idea. This is not a. This should not be a scary concept. It should not be.
well, regardless of whether it's scary or not, it's there.
Well,
Like,
right, and that's why it should not be. Like you nailed it on the head. If you're scared of this, you're literally wasting your energy. You're wasting your time because you ain't gonna do shit about it. So enjoy the ride.
this is a true story. The last thing I'll say, and then we can end this episode. People used to at the beginning when we first started putting trains out around the world, people legitimately would not let women ride trains because they believed that the train traveled so fast that their women's organs would fall out of their vagina.
Shut the fuck up.
That was literally a movement to get trains to stop being used. So it's the same shit. You just move the fucking bad guy to the next advancement.
Right.
Air flight, like you can't break the sound barrier. It's gonna tear a hole in space and time. No. The earth is flat. You can't like no. Like
no.
So for as smart of a species as we are, we spend a lot of time being fucking stupid.
Ladies, stay off the trains.
Yeah.
That's the take home.
Wow. You don't want your lady parts falling out.
I never heard that. That's funny.
So there's tons of shit. So
yeah,
like I just brought this as a different kind of. You hear the conspiracy. Yeah, so everything's
I tell you what I'm going to do literally because one I'm exhausted. But I'm going to lay in bed and I'm going to Google the Facebook like robot conversation because that's fucking fascinating to me. I'm literally going to Google it.
Dude, I'm pretty fucking sure it was Facebook. I know that happened. I know that situation happened. I don't know if it was IBM or if it was Facebook, but I'm pretty sure it was fucking Facebook, man. Zuckerberg. He stole Facebook and then he stole your life, man. You put it all on the internets.
And I love people bitching about Facebook on Facebook.
Yeah. This is the worst.
Well, God, Facebook. Well, turn it off.
Yeah, delete it
on that motherfucker.
Delete it, motherfucker.
Yeah. Oh shit. All right, man. That was good.
All right, brother.
All right, man. Later.
I'm gonna
use my
creepy
artificial intelligence to turn this motherfucker off.
Later.
Okay.